The following is an Infinity One Productions presentation, keeping it honest, insightful, interactive.
Coming up next on the RCWR Show YouTube exclusive, we're going to be covering the fallout from tonight's WWE Raw, where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson created new history tonight as he unveiled the new WWE title. We'll cover that and the rest of what all you might have missed from tonight's Raw. It's the RCWR Show YouTube exclusive, and it begins right now.
Covering the latest in wrestling and beyond. You're listening to the RCWR Show with your host, Lee Sanders.
Welcoming you to this YouTube exclusive edition of the RCWR Show. I am your host, the Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders. Thank you so much for checking out this episode on February 18th, 2013. We are 7 minutes removed from WWE Raw, fresh after it came on the air on the USA Network. Alright, let's jump right into it, boys and girls, as we said at the top of the intro here. Leading into tonight's show, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he made his impact. He came in great style tonight as he had a New Orleans marching band rooting him on, playing his theme song as he came out to a huge pop from the WWE Universe and cutting one very interesting promo saying how he knows that at WrestleMania 29, in just 48 days, he is going to have to defend his title against either CM Punk or it's going to be John Cena. He would also note that with the title that he currently has, it's not going to be that title that is going to be on the line. And he showed the respect where it was due, saying how the title at this point had been around for 8 years and that there needs to be a new belt. Quite honestly, the problem that he had with the old belt was that it spun. Now, for those of you that may not be aware, that belt has not spun for a couple of years. I thought it was kind of interesting that just recently, in the past couple of weeks, the belt spins again. But I understand the point that they were trying to make as they had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson be the one to set up and acknowledge that core audience that had a problem with that WWE title spinning. As Dwayne Johnson said that the problems that he's been having with that title, besides it spinning, is that it looks like a toy and that the WWE title should not be looked at and treated as a toy. It is a title that great men have held. Many men such as Bruno Sammartino, the immortal Hulk Hogan, the excellence of execution, Bret "Hitman" Hart, Stone Cold, Steve Austin, all these men of which he had mentioned. And he unveiled the new WWE title. Now, let's just cut right into it. Now, we saw the early designs of this title around summer of last year. We saw this belt in the early stages, and if you remember, we were actually one of the first people to report this new title design on our website at InfinityOneProductions.com. We also had shared the image on our Facebook page at Infinity One Productions. We were one of the first, and it just had got a lot of downplay. A lot of people didn't think this was the actual belt that we were going to be seeing, and a lot of us were under the impression that maybe it was going to be CM Punk that was going to be unveiling this new title. Now, bear in mind, CM Punk had let the cat out the bag that they were working on a new title, but that was as far as he could say without getting into more trouble, as at that point, he had no business even revealing that. So I think it's kind of interesting that of all the people to reveal this new title, they went with The Rock. And I think from just a viewer standpoint, they created a lot of great buzz right here. If you're going to have a new title be unveiled, what bigger way to do it than with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? And I think it's just smart money right here. And, the belt, it's going to take me a little while to get used to because I couldn't help but kind of compare it to a big old college class ring, high school graduation ring. That's just how it looks when I look at this title. But I definitely think it's a little bit of a step up from the previous belt that we had got for the past 8 years. And I just think that with this new title being unveiled, it really does usher in a new era for the WWE. And the timing of this just couldn't be any better. I mean, just keep this in mind, folks. We had two monumental things happen today, on this day, February 18th, 2013. We have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson unveil the new WWE title, and then we hear that WrestleMania 30 is going to be held in New Orleans on April 7th, 2014. Truly a historic night right here. They are just really hitting a home run off the break with this. And that was pretty much your main takeaway for tonight's WWE Raw, was The Rock unveiling that new WWE title. Now, he would end up meeting face-to-face briefly with John Cena. John Cena, he didn't even say anything. He just looked on at The Rock, as The Rock had, at this point, tried to determine who he wanted to go head-to-head with at WrestleMania 29. And just right before he could give his personal preference, we saw John Cena come out, and he's looking at The Rock, and it just looks as if maybe these two men are about to get it on. But then CM Punk attacks John Cena from behind with the old WWE title, and we see CM Punk and The Rock looking at one another, and you're under the impression that maybe these two men are about to get it on. But CM Punk, he decides at the last minute to go into the backstage area. So that was pretty much it. That is how Raw had went off. Truly a historic night. Let's kick it off to the very top for those of you that might have missed it. As one of the other key highlights for tonight's episode of Raw, we saw Mark Henry continue his impressive dominance of strength as he defeated Sin Cara. This was pretty much a squash match right here. Post-match was very interesting, though, as he had assaulted Sin Cara. Just continued on with it when we saw Great Khali come out. Remember, Great Khali, he had got his ass handed to him last week by Mark Henry, because that's what he does. And Mark Henry, he was ready to get some more of Great Khali. He was ready to beat him down to a pulp again. Soon as Great Khali enters the ring, we see Mark Henry quickly leave out and says to Great Khali, "If I want a dance partner, I'll get my own." And then telling him, "Hey, all you know how to do best is dance. That's it." Mocking him, making fun of him. I'm taking this with a grain of salt. Hopefully this type of match, it's obvious it's going to go down. Hopefully it will take place either on main event or it will take place on SmackDown. I'm hoping that this is not going to be a WrestleMania 29 match. I truly believe Mark Henry is more deserving than that. So hopefully this will go in the proper direction that it needs to go, because honestly, I could care less about Great Khali. And those of you that have been listening to me long enough, you know how critical I am of Great Khali. We also had got a very interesting moment between Vicky Guerrero and Paul Heyman, folks, as it was revealed that Vicky Guerrero has a new assistant, and it is none other than the Brad Maddox Experience himself. Brad Maddox. This was a shocking move right here, as Brad Maddox had revealed to all that because of his actions in turning in the evidence to Mr. McMahon, indicating that Paul Heyman did in fact have something to do with he and the Shields, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns, in helping CM Punk be able to retain his title at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, followed by Survivor Series. Vince McMahon thought it would be good to reward him for his honesty and his services, and decided to appoint him as Vicky Guerrero's assistant. Now, Paul Heyman at this point, he really didn't care less what was going on right here. He tried to excuse himself, but we saw an appearance by Vince McMahon via satellite telling Heyman that he remembers something that Heyman said to him last week with regards to the stipulation for the Rock versus CM Punk match at Elimination Chamber. Vince McMahon pointing out that Paul Heyman is willing to do anything. Well, Vince McMahon told Heyman that he's going to be cashing in on that next week, as he is going to be taking on Paul Heyman in a fight. So this just sends shockwaves, as you can't help but say to yourself, okay, what the hell is going on here? Vince McMahon is just fresh off of his hip surgery, 2 weeks in now, but he's going to be coming back tomorrow to take on Paul Heyman in a match. Just what exactly is going on here? Has Vince McMahon lost his marbles? Well, we shall see next week. I'll go into a little bit more about what we can expect for next week once I'm done with the overall takeaway of tonight's episode. Let's talk about some of the other matches that we saw tonight. We had got a no disqualification match between Antonio Cesaro and The Miz. This was a bit of a rematch, if you will, from Elimination Chamber Sunday night, but the title was not on the line. Remember how that match at Elimination Chamber ended? Very controversial, as Miz unintentionally had delivered the knee into the groin of Cesaro. Well, this was possibly the last opportunity for the Miz to try to get himself back into that number one contender spot to possibly be able to take on Antonio Cesaro for that United States title. And this was a damn good matchup. It was one of three of the best matches that we had got on tonight's Raw. I actually would have to give this match a 3.5 out of 5. Great no disqualification match, as we had saw The Miz defeat Antonio Cesaro, beat him with a submission hold, despite only being at less than 100%. Arm still banged up from that attack he suffered from Cesaro last week on Raw. So no doubt this is going to set up Miz Cesaro at WrestleMania for the United States title. We also had got a great match between Alberto Del Rio and Dolph Ziggler. Remember, Dolph Ziggler right here, he still has that Money in the Bank briefcase, and this was almost going to be the night that many Dolph Ziggler fans have been waiting for. Now, Alberto Del Rio, he's fresh off of his win against the Big Show, making him tap out via submission. Well, that submission streak had continued on, as Del Rio was successful in picking up a victory over Ziggler via submission. But post-match, folks, is where it got very interesting, as we saw Big E Langston attack Del Rio, just laid him out completely. And this had prompted a weekend Dolph Ziggler to realize that tonight could be the night that he could cash in that Money in the Bank briefcase. So he gestured to Big E Langston to get the Money in the Bank briefcase so that it could be cashed in. And just right before Big E was able to give it to the referee, we see Ricardo Rodriguez. He grabs the briefcase and tries running off to the backstage area, but Big E Langston is like literally behind him. Ricardo just drops the briefcase, just continues to run on as Big E continues to give chase. Now, we see Dolph Ziggler, he then points to the briefcase telling AJ Lee to go get the case. And by the time AJ brought it back, Alberto Del Rio, he already recovered, and he just attacked Ziggler with a step-up drop kick. That was pretty much the end of that right there. So on this night, looks as if Dolph Ziggler did not become the World Heavyweight Champion. But with 48 days to go until WrestleMania 29 in New York, New Jersey, you can't help but wonder, when is Dolph Ziggler going to be cashing in this title? Other matches we saw included Brodus Clay, Tensai, teaming up with Naomi to take on and defeat Primo, Epico, and Rosa Mendez. Naomi really getting a little bit more ring time right here. She was looking ever so impressive in this match, and quite honestly, I think it's about damn time that they started going with these Funketeer dancers, especially with Naomi. She has a very strong background in wrestling. She did a lot of stuff on the independent circuit. I think it's about damn time that they started giving her the spotlight. And I think, honestly, if this continues to go as well, it's possible that we could be seeing Naomi break off maybe from Brodus Clay and maybe become a future Divas champion. Would be nice. Or maybe we could see her do a little bit of double duty. Who knows? Sheamus and Ryback very upset at the fact that the Shield had got a huge upset victory over them at Elimination Chamber. John Cena, of course, he's focused on The Rock right now, on his date at WrestleMania. Well, we saw Chris Jericho enter the scene, and apparently he had a conversation with Vicky Guerrero to try to see if he could join them in taking on the Shield tonight, as it was the Shield's Raw debut match, and these guys did a phenomenal freaking job. This was probably the best six-man tag match of the night. 5-star quality. Best tag match I've seen for a six-man tag I've seen in quite a good number of years. I would actually have to think for a little bit to try to figure out when was the last time we had a really great kick-ass six-man tag match on Raw. But these guys picking up from the momentum that they had at Elimination Chamber. This was not disappointing. Great match. Shield continued the streak. Great signs that WWE still has faith in the Shield, that they are just getting started with this group. And as myself and Diamond K had pointed out on the RCWR post show covering the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, as we, as well as many people, were very shocked that the Shield had picked up the win, but we're quite pleased to know that the Shield, it's going to continue on. And if you're a Shield fan, you really just couldn't help but feel very satisfied in seeing these latest developments that's transpired in the past 24 hours with Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. These guys are just truly a force to be reckoned with. And the way things are looking right now, it looks as though these guys are WrestleMania bound. Looks like they definitely will be making their debut. Looking very forward to that. Of course, we're hearing those silly little reports that's going around that Chris Jericho could possibly be going away from the WWE for maybe a week or two, because he's getting ready to go on tour with Fozzy. But he'll be back in time to continue the build-up to WrestleMania. That's pretty much a touch and go. I think we need to just really kind of take that by the day. We think we kind of know what's going on with Chris Jericho, but as Chris Jericho has proven time and time again, he can throw us a curveball. He can really cater in to whatever the internet community is saying. If you know Chris Jericho, you know how he is with social media. He loves to have his fun playing with folks sometimes. So that's really just a touch and go right there. All right, and we had saw Jack Swagger and Uncle Zeb, aka Dutch Mantel, cut one very interesting promo, as it was the State of the Union address, their version of it at least. Zeb Coulter doing most of the talking about how there was a time in America where you could be proud to be an American, and he talked about exercising his right of free speech. And this was the perfect setup going into the problem that he feels it's going on in North America with illegal immigrants taking away the jobs, the Medicaid, the education, as he wants for real Americans to step up and say no more. And he also talked about the big difference between Jack Swagger and World Heavyweight Champion Alberto Del Rio, pointing out that Jack Swagger is a real American-born patriot, while World Heavyweight Champ Del Rio is in this country illegally, ripping the awards in America, basically capitalizing, cashing in on the great opportunities that America has to offer. And Zeb Culture basically saying that this isn't just going to be some match for the World Heavyweight title at Mania. This is pretty much about the spirit of America that is going to be on the line, and promises that it's going to be Jack Swagger that's going to capture the title and be a true and proud American champion, because that is just the way America needs to be. Very controversial words right there from Zeb Culture, and we were just paying attention to what some of you folks were saying. I know I had a personal hand in interacting with a lot of you on Twitter to get you all's thoughts on what had went down on Raw tonight, and there's definitely a good number of you all that are very ruffled at the feathers with this Zeb Culture, but like we told you guys on our post show from Sunday, this is something that you could definitely expect for the next several weeks. Only thing you really got to be asking yourself right now is how exactly is Dolph Ziggler going to be fitting into this whole equation? You know he's going to. So the fact that they have him in that loop as well, it's going to be creating one very interesting atmosphere come WrestleMania 29. Of course, we got to talk about what had went down with John Cena earlier in the night, as John Cena was very excited at the fact that in 48 days he was going to be taking on WWE Champion The Rock for the title. Opportunity of redemption right here. Now, he actually ended up crossing paths with CM Punk. Punk still upset at the fact that The Rock had beat him at Sunday's pay-per-view. Despite a couple of reps being knocked out, one point Rock did use the WWE title to knock out CM Punk while a referee was out and was able to retain the title. So technically, CM Punk should be the champion right now. You know how CM Punk is, crying over spilt milk, basically wanting another opportunity to take on The Rock for the title, and really getting into the head of John Cena, telling him, look, you have never beat me. But John Cena quickly counters right back and says, that's true, but I've never beat The Rock. CM Punk demanding that John Cena does the right thing and give him that WrestleMania spot so he can take on Dwayne Johnson. Well, John Cena tells him, you know me, you've known me for a long time, you should know by now I'm not just going to hand over something, but I will give you an opportunity to win it. Cena was ready to take on CM Punk tonight for that WrestleMania spot against The Rock for the title. But CM Punk said no, he is going to wait until next week. John Cena countered right back and said, you do your training, bring your best A game, and I'm going to beat you and prove to everybody, even the critics, that I am deserving of going to WrestleMania to take on The Rock. But I promise you this, if you indeed beat me, then you prove without a shadow of a doubt that I do not deserve to be in that spotlight against the champion. So high stakes right here. Some of the other matches that we had got included Kofi Kingston, who had took on Damian Sandow. This match actually ended in a no contest, as Damian Sandow, he was cutting a promo bashing the WWE Universe for their intellect and not really grasping the holiday of President's Day. And this would lead into him quickly assaulting Kofi Kingston with a microphone and beating him down. And surprisingly, folks, we saw the return of R-Truth. R-Truth, he had been gone for a good little while there. He was out on a little bit of a minor injury. Made quick work of Damian Sandow. Looks like R-Truth is picking up right where he left off as a babyface. Would really be nice to see him back as a heel, but he's so over with the little kids right now. Just no chance in hell of that happening, no doubt. Randy Orton had picked up a win over Kane, and this was due to the interference of Daniel Bryan. Now, let's set this up properly. Kane and Daniel Bryan, they were in a backstage segment, and Daniel Bryan was still fumed at what had went down at Elimination Chamber, as he told Kane that he had got himself a match set up to take on Jack Swagger, of which he had lost. And he told Kane to not interfere in the match. Kane kept his word. He did not interfere in this match. And Kane was expecting the same from Daniel Bryan. But in the last few seconds of this match, just when it looked as if Kane had the big W in the books, we saw Daniel Bryan come out, cause a huge distraction. This set up Kane for a devastating RKO the Viper able to pick up the victory that way. And you're just kind of led to believe that at this point, these two men, they could possibly lose these tag titles in the upcoming weeks and could probably go head to head at WrestleMania in a singles match. Or they could end up defending the tag titles at WrestleMania, lose them, and then break off, maybe go into a singles competition, maybe go into a little bit of a rivalry one-on-one for a couple of months. Very interesting development right here. Next week should definitely give us a little bit more insight into what all is going on with this weird tag team right here, as Brodus Clay and Tensai continue to be on the rise as the new hot ticket. But overall, this was definitely a pretty good, strong episode of WWE Raw. As me and Diamond K had said on the post show Sunday night, fireworks was definitely going to be cranking up big time on tonight's episode of Raw. You knew that they were going to hit a home run, and I expected that they were going to hit a home run tonight to really help pave the way to WrestleMania. I went on record and said that if anything, maybe the third week, it would be a little bit ice cold. Fourth week, a little bit ice cold. But the final weeks going into WrestleMania, at least the final 3 weeks, the episodes would really be, from a production standpoint, be very excellent. But I did suspect that they were going to hit a huge home run tonight, and they did do that with the unveiling of that new WWE title. My takeaway going into Raw of next week, we have that John Cena versus CM Punk WrestleMania spot is on the line. Do not be too surprised if maybe Brock Lesnar might have something to do with this. Maybe there might be some type of interference. If they decide to not go that route, then honestly it could just be a case where John Cena will just pick up a clean win. But I expect a lot of foul play to be going on in this match. I definitely wouldn't be too surprised if Paul Heyman might try to interfere in this, what have you. Then again, Paul Heyman may have his hands preoccupied with Vince McMahon, who will be returning next week, and it actually wouldn't even surprise me one little bit if Vince McMahon may use his power and ban Paul Heyman from ringside. But there's two different scenarios that could play out for that particular match. We could either see Brock Lesnar return, maybe he might have a huge role, and F5 the hell out of CM Punk, setting up John Cena for the win. Or John Cena just cleanly gets a W over CM Punk to finally be able to say that he's finally beaten CM Punk. But going into WrestleMania 29, I definitely have CM Punk picking up the W. This is pretty much all about building up confidence in John Cena going into Mania, make it really appear as though this could be the year of John Cena. John Cena could finally come back full circle, be at that path of redemption, look at it straight in the face, and be able to walk away as the new WWE Champion for the 11th time in his 10-year career with the company. My other takeaway, I'm looking at what is going down with Mark Henry. I would suspect that he's going to continue his path of destruction, of inducting folks into his Hall of Pain. Whether or not Great Khali will be a part of that, who knows? But that should be a very interesting story in itself. And of course, we have the continuation of Alberto Del Rio, Jack Swagger. WrestleMania season is really kicking off to a great start right now. Notice once again, and this has been the trend past couple of weeks now, looks like as far as Divas action goes, it's been a little bit kind of not really present. I'm kind of very curious to see what direction they're going to go with the Divas come WrestleMania season, if they're going to even get the spotlight or if they're going to be part of the YouTube pre-show. That should be a very interesting story in itself. Well, that's going to do it. Overall, definitely thought Raw was a great episode. A scale of 1 to 10. I would have to give it a modest I would have to give it a modest 7.5 out of 10. For me, I'm just pumped up that we finally get a new title. Again, it's going to take me a while to get used to because all I really see is a big old W, but I can get used to it with the right amount of time and the right type of people with it. Holding the title, that is. I could get used to it. But it was definitely nice to see The Rock again. I would definitely expect big numbers to come in for this week's Raw. All right, I want you guys to do me a huge favor. If you ended up seeing tonight's episode of WWE Raw, share your thoughts. Let us know what you liked, what you had disliked about Raw. Let us definitely know what you had thought about the new WWE title. And what we'll do is we'll actually follow up on it on our Tuesday night Wrestling Report edition of the RCWR Show. Join me and Diamond K as we go more in depth about key points that happened from tonight's Raw. We'll go more in depth about The Rock and unveiling the new WWE title, what this really signifies for the company. We'll also go more in depth about the very latest, and this was breaking news. We had first reported it to you all on Twitter and on Facebook. Looks like Scott Hall has landed in Atlanta, and he is now with Diamond Dallas Page and Jake the Snake Roberts to begin his rehab / training with DDP Yoga to help get himself back in shape, save his life. Of course, we're going to be going greatly in depth about Scott Hall, but we thought we'd share that little bit of piece of happy news for you all about Scott Hall. He finally touched ground in Atlanta. It was earlier today. We actually have a picture up on our Facebook page that shows Diamond and Jake the Snake with Scott Hall. It's a really nice picture. They're all just smiling. They look all, it's just a joyous occasion. You're just glad, you're just happy when you see that Scott Hall made it out there, that the new beginning of his life is officially off to a good start. I can't wait to see how this is going to play out for him. I'm definitely rooting for him. But join us for that. We'll go more in depth about that, and we'll also cover the very latest in wrestling related news and so much more. So join us Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern at blogtalkradio.com/the RCWR Show. Once again, that's blogtalkradio.com/the RCWR Show. We're going to be covering all that, and we're going to put the question out there, as a lot of you all are already putting it out there. How come it couldn't be CM Punk to unveil that new WWE title? We'll definitely bring that point up as well. Hey, if you end up checking out some of the other great content that we have put up on our YouTube channel, hey, do us a huge favor. If you end up liking it, hit that subscribe button so you never miss out, as from time to time we post a lot of great exclusives on here, just like our coverage of the WrestleMania 30 press conference. If you haven't seen that yet, go backtrack. It's available right now in our archives. Great stuff right there. That's going to do it, folks. See you this Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern for the Tuesday Night Wrestling Report edition of the RCWR Show. I'm the Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders, wishing you all to be safe and be kind to one another, folks. We will see you Tuesday night, 11 p.m. Eastern. Everybody,